Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining on time. I hope you all had a wonderful day. If not, let's see if we can end that and your Monday on a good note. Thumbs up, guys, if you see the screen and you can also hear me. Thank you very much, Apurva. Thank you very much. Let's start. Agenda you have already seen. If you're joining for the first time, just send me an email over here and I will add you to the group. Let's see. Okay. Recap. Don't want to disclaimer, guys. Uh, all that you have learned so far. If I'll very quickly go through it, right? So you know how to greet someone, you know how to take leave from someone, you know how to ask about someone's well-being. There are, for example, you can say "Wie geht's dir?" But there are, if you really get to know people, people normally say "Alles gut, alles klar." It's similar to like everything all right, all good. You can just say "Alles klar, alles gut," and you also know "Alles klar" can be an answer. "Alles klar" can also be a question. You know then how to frame simple sentences and how to frame simple w word questions, how to frame simple yes or no questions. That means where the position of the verb is, and how the other. So normally you have to just take care of the verb and everything else takes care of itself. And I also told you that uh, a simple sentence, I mean, this is important for exam, like that. For example, if it's a yes or no kind of question, the verb has to be at the beginning, and simple sentence, the verb has to be at the second position. But in real life, it's not that, it doesn't matter. For example, I can say du hast gegessen. I can also say du hast gegessen. The same thing is now a question. It's a yes or no question. What are Personalpronomen? I mean, personal pronouns. You should know ich, du, er, es, sie, and the other ones you should also know them in accusative and dative. You should pass the 4 a.m. test when I ask you about personal pronouns. Nominative, accusative, dative. And of course, we know how to count from zero to my salary, or zero to blue card, or you know how to count from zero to your salary. Of course, you know how to say a few things about yourself. If not, then please start doing homework. We know about articles, so nominative articles. So I told you that whenever you learn a new noun, always learn with the correct article. There, the, or thus. Then you know how to give. Okay, I did not cover this. How to give, but we covered how to give it directions. Go left, go right, and then how to conjugate verbs. There are many rules how you can there are this regular verbs, there are mixed verbs, irregular verbs, and there are regular verbs are the easiest ones to conjugate. But as I said, don't try it. You can try remembering rules, or you can just learn the four conjugations. For example, every verb will have, for example, haben, ich habe, du hast, er, sie, es hat, ihr habt, and the other ones are just haben. So you just have to remember four different versions of the same verb, and you know how to conjugate verbs. And no one needs more than 1,000 verbs for daily life. you know uh, you can just do how many things like, for example, today, if I look at my what I did today, I took part in two meetings. One was a daily scrum meeting, and in that I spoke for 1 minute, because they like it was, those who know what daily scrum, it's not more than 15 minutes. And after that, I spoke to one colleague, because we were working on a problem together. In with him, I spoke for half an hour. So today I only had to speak just for 45 minutes. And I don't think I need more than 1,000 verbs if I'm just speaking for like 45 minutes in a day. Then you know how to talk about your eating drinking habits. What do you like to do, when do you eat, when do you drink, and so things. Also, the first alphabet of a word is always capital. Like, not always, like when, for example, the pronoun z, it's s is always capital. It's something like the I of English. Also, I told you that noun is always capitalized. How to, I mean, this is not something you should learn, but if you don't know how to write an email, what are the salutations, then how to, okay, counting we done. Different ways to ask what time is it. I told you that you don't need to learn this, but what is important is that how you answer that question. Why do you need to know this? If you're working in Germany, you will have a lot of meetings, especially nowadays when people work from home, and you have to know, how to say at, how to use, do you say after, before, between, and how do you talk about time. Then something about pronunciation, I told you that. Again, this is not a fixed rule, but this is what my teacher taught me. This is what I want to help you understand, that any word in German which is ending with r or er or er or ar, you don't have to emphasize the air part. For example, just say bruder, don't say bruder. Okay. Then you learned Modalverben. I told you they are very important. They make your life easier, because if when you use Modalverben, you don't have to conjugate the other verb. If you use Modalverben, you only conjugate the modal verb, and the other verb can be used in its infinitive form. Then you need learn some words, the same thing as specific time, like gegen, nach, for, blah blah blah. I told you it's always a good idea to know how to apologize, how to say sorry, and how you may react to an apology. It's always good. there was a homework. You should know. You know, you should pass this test. If I come to your house right now, and if I start pointing at every object that I can find in your room where you're sitting right now, you should be able to tell me the German noun for that. Again, i- why? Because it's a good practice. This is how you start learning. Maybe after 6 months you don't have to, but in the beginning, this is how you start forcing your brain to learn German. Let's say, but let's say you join, let's say if you're a consultant, every 6 months you will have a new project. You may work for an aircraft manufacturer, you may work for, I don't know, for example, a company like Bayer, which manufactures chemicals, right? Then you will have to learn the new vocabulary, and it is your job as an expat to very quickly learn the new vocabulary, right? So starting with your apartment is a very good habit you can start with. Then we looked at dative. We looked at very in detail, like when is something nominative, when is something accusative, when is something dative. We looked at when is zu and sehr. Then last session we looked at Wechselpräpositionen. I told you that they can be dative, they can be accusative. When is and when is dative, when is accusative. I hope you remember, right? Whenever there is some kind of motion involved, movement, it is almost always accusative. Otherwise, it is dative. Then we looked at the verb gefallen and the noun gefallen. Of course, they mean different, meaning their meanings is different. Then we did a very good, like, comprehensive session on pronunciation. Pronunciation is important for me. Some people say it's not that important, as long as you can say a few things. I don't think so. Even if you can say just a few things, but you say it with the correct pronunciation, the other person is going to get this feeling that your German is really good. And then this reflects also on you, that okay, you feel okay, yeah, my German is really good, the other guys really appreciate. Then this builds your confidence, and then you want to learn even more German. Okay. Then we did not look at this tune versus mark, and I think we'll look at it today. Let's continue, guys. Any questions, guys? Feel free to interrupt and ask. I have an agenda, but we can always change the agenda. I think we did this right. So, how you may start journaling in German. Just look at your day. Take any random part of your day, and just see if you can. You can divide your day into pieces of half an hour, and like 8 hours you sleep, and then you have 16 hours left. Just divide that 16 hours into 32 parts, and just take any 30 minutes of that day and see what all do you do in that part. I chose my morning, so I wake up, I get ready, I boil water, I whatever I do in the morning, and then few other things. Of course, I don't cook dinner in the morning, but you can take your meeting with your boss, right? Just think what all you may have to say, or what all things happen in that meeting, and just see if you can write that in German. Of course, you will not be able to write everything in German, but see what all you can write, and then you can build on from that. I can, like in Avon, they say that you should learn how to order in a restaurant, but why? I mean, most of you are expats, most of you have your own friend circle, and when you go to a restaurant, you may be going like once in 2 weeks or once in a month, right? You normally go to a restaurant of your own country. Why do you want to order there in German? You know, it's not relevant. So better focus on the meeting with your boss, with your colleagues, with your client. Okay, as I said, you can choose doctor's appointment. You can think what you can say when you are returning stuff at IKEA. You can think of interactions that you have with teachers or other parents at your kids' school. For example, you are looking for a new job, and recruiter calls you, or you see a job advertisement and you want to call and ask more about the job. Believe me, guys, you can do this with Avon. It's not that difficult. We can do this with Avon level German. In asking about some information about a job advertisement or anything. It can be about a new SIM card service provider, new internet connection. You can think of dialogue from your favorite movie or series. For example, today I was thinking about this. There is this, because I was a consultant in my previous job, and there is this statement that a consultant knows 100 ways to talk to a woman, but he knows no woman. I was thinking, like, how can I say this in German? So you can think of statements like this and how you can say this in German. Or if you are kind of the creative one, you can think of describing the future you. What do I mean by this? Think about, what do you want to be like after 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, and just see, just use the verb sein, ich bin, and just say, ich bin ein Millionär, ich bin gesund, ich bin, whatever you want to say, and you can use different verbs. Okay, let's start. So, guys, please tell me, how do I say these things in German? Again, this exercise may seem utterly useless, but it is not. So, how do I say I'm a web developer? Anyone? Uh,
Ich
uh,
bin ein
Ich bin ein, and then
Webentwickler.
correct. Let's say if you are a woman, what will you say?
Entwicklern.
But no, entire sentence, please.
Ich bin eine Webentwicklerin.
Okay, so that's correct. How do I say I am 28 years old? Or you can also give me a minute on. So how do I say I'm 28 years old?
Ich bin 28 Jahre alt.
Yeah. Then I have a solution. You can try to give the answer that you can. You don't have to give the entire answer. Just tell me how do I say I have.
Ich habe
Ich habe
Yeah,
eine Lösung.
that's correct. Ich habe eine Lösung, right? So, yeah, Rishi, you have a question. Feel free to talk. Don't need to raise your hand. Rishi, go ahead.
Actually, sir, and I'm attending your class for the first time, so I'm a bit confused about the web developer. This thing is word actually, so
We'll give you the answer.
maybe
Well,
I'll catch
so
up
so
with
this is
the.
an exercise we are doing. Like, so these are just things in English, and we are trying. So I'm trying to teach something. Trying to talk about today's agenda is that how you can talk about past. So far these guys know how to talk about present tense. I am, I, like say present continuous, simple present, present perfect. Today you, so for example, I'm a web developer, right? And now my question to next question will be like, how do you say I was a web developer, or how do you say I was a programmer? So this is what we will learn today. So I'm doing kind of an exercise. So I'm trying to understand, like, uh, make some people feel good that they did the homework, and some people feel bad because they did not do the homework. Does that answer your question,
Yeah,
Rishi?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
Who can tell me how do I say I was a programmer? Again, this is, I mean, I will give you the answer, but I'm seeing if some already, I mean, this has nothing to do with homework, but some people may already know this from Duolingo. How do I say I was?
Ishwar,
Ishwar, right? How do I say I was 27 years old? In the same thing, right? Ishwar. How do I say
Ishwar,
Ishwar, right? How do I say I had a problem? Had.
Ich hatte.
Ich
Is had,
hatte.
right?
Shorter.
Probably, how do you say, so give me the entire sentence, please. Entire sentence, please. I had a problem.
Ich hatte ein Problem.
Okay. Problem is there, the or das.
Das.
Uh,
Das.
Thus, then what is the correct article that you have to use here? Ich hatte.
Ich hatte ein Problem.
Okay, it's I, and is it accusative,
Einen.
dative, or nominative?
Ein.
Yeah, ein is correct. And
Ein.
accusative, nominative, dative. Your answer is correct, but I'm thinking like asking for the reasoning. So why is it ein and why is it not? Uh, so ein is
ein,
correct, right? But is it accusative,
accusative,
dative, nominative? Sorry,
accusative.
why? One answer is I just know. That's a very valid answer. But if you, let's say, if you someday want to become a teacher, then I will ask you, why is it accusative? Who can answer?
because it's an object, I guess.
It's an object, but if I
Because
say,
haben
if I say, so if I say Ishwar, I was, right? So here it's also an object, right? But it's not accusative.
Yeah.
No, if you will say Ishwar,
After sein, we have to use the noun as accusative.
so the yes, but you have to. We did the exercise, right? So when
It's a
let's say,
direct object.
sorry.
It's a direct
haben is
It's a
object.
direct object. That's a very technical answer, right? That's a good answer. But
yeah,
so, but one street smart, or like, or how I and many of my friends like to think of it. If you can find the missing information with, if I replace a problem, if I say I had blah blah, your question will be, what did you had, right? Or what did you have? Sorry, what did you have? So if the missing information can be found with the help of a what kind of question, it's accusative. So if I say blah blah had a problem, you will be who had a problem. So if the missing information can be found with the help of a who kind of question, it is nominative. Okay, that's that. I hope I answered my question. If you have questions, please ask. Why I think it's accusative. Direct object is the correct answer, but I just gave one more answer. So here, how you say, can someone read this for me? Anyone? I want you to read all of this. So from here to here. Rishi, do you want to read? Rishi,
Yeah, yes, sir.
go ahead.
Okay. So Ich bin eine Webentwicklerin. So, okay, then next one. Du bist eine Webentwicklerin. Then es ist eine Entwickler.
Okay, go
Sorry, sir,
slowly.
actually,
It's ein, okay, not eine. It's now here. It is ein. Yeah,
okay,
continue.
okay. Sie ist eine Entwicklerin. Eine Entwicklerin. Wir sind Webentwicklerin. Ihr seid Webentwicklerin.
Go back. Read one more time.
Sie,
Wir sind.
ihr seid.
Oh no, go
Okay,
back.
wir sind Webentwicklerin.
No. It's
Entwicklerinnen.
You
Okay,
can
okay.
mute yourself and do this pattern. Tadan. Just try to say this. None. And
Entwicklerinnen.
Entwicklerinnen.
Okay.
Okay.
Ihr seid Webentwicklerinnen.
Correct.
Sie sind Webentwicklerinnen.
Okay. Now, thank you very much.
Ich
You can stop. Yeah. So what I want to say is this, so again, this is basic. You should know this. Any verb that if you say I'm a web developer, you can plug in your professional. For example, I will say ich bin ein data engineer, right? You can plug in whichever profession you want. But the idea is that if you learn any verb, learn the other four conjugations as well. So again, sein is a special verb. So bin, du bist, es, sie, it's the same one. And for via, ia, zz, it's this. So sorry, you learn for ish, du, sz, and for ia. And for via, zz, it's the same, right? And normally any verb that you learn via zz will be the same as the actual verb. Sein is a special verb, but if you take haben, who wants to read for Manjusa? Do you want to read for this one? Ich
Ja.
habe.
Ich habe eine Lösung. Du hast eine Lösung. Sie hatte eine Lösung. Wir haben eine Lösung. Ihr habt eine Lösung. Sie haben eine Lösung.
Okay, but there is a mistake over here. I mean, it's not mistake. I mean, so I actually wanted to write this in present tense, but I think I was doing copy pasting, so it should be hat. Okay, so ich habe, du hast, sie es hat, ihr habt, and for wir, sie, it's the same as haben, right? Now, if I want to say this, someone already gave the answer. How do I say I was, right? So if you want to say I was, you will have to learn the conjugation of the same verb in past tense. So ich war, du warst. Can someone read this for me? Apurva, do you want to?
Es war ein Programmierer. Can I continue?
Yeah, of course.
Ja, sie war eine Programmiererin. Wir waren Programmierinnen. Ihr wart Programmierinnen. Sie waren Programmierinnen.
Thank you very much. You can also read the all here from here to here. Read all of them.
Okay. Ich war 27 Jahre alt. Du warst 27 Jahre alt. Sie war 27 Jahre alt. Wir waren 27 Jahre alt. Ihr wart 27 Jahre alt. Sie waren 27 Jahre alt. Ich hatte ein Problem. Du hattest ein Problem. Sie hatte ein Problem. Wir hatten ein Problem. Ihr hattet ein Problem. Sie hatten ein Problem.
Thank you very much, Apurva. So it's very basic, So the verb sein, its past is waren, and you conjugate it for ich war, du warst, sie, es war. I mean, I wrote it differently because I will have to use a different article. I cannot say, right, sie war ein Programmierer. No, it doesn't make sense. If it's a woman, it has to be eine, right? So wir, again, so you learn for ich, du, you learn for sie, and you learn for ihr. And for sie, wir, it's the same as the actual verb in the past, that is waren. Yeah, Rishi, question? Don't need to raise your hand. Interrupt any time, okay?
It was not actually related to tenses, but about the word programmer. Programmeren is verb, and for English word programmer, equivalent is programmerer. Extra er
Ah,
needed.
yes, you are right. Where do I have it? Ishwar. Yeah, yeah, there should be program mirror.
Uh,
Wait, Ishwar.
Once more er
It's
in
correct.
that.
No, but I'm using, I mean, I'm thinking of myself as a woman, so it will be program mirror. But if I say man, it will be program mirror. That's correct. Yeah, here you mean, right? Program, there is has to be ER more over here, right?
Yes,
Here, right?
and
Here it has to be.
I
Thank you
suppose
very much.
even for feminine form that might have double er, then
Just check. Okay, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Just check. It has to be, but I'm sure it has to. There has to be one more. Yeah, I'm not sure. Just check. But I think you are right. Program mirror.
yes, it is. Yeah, it is
Okay.
a double er
Okay.
for feminine as well. I just
Okay. Yeah.
checked.
Yeah. Yeah. More questions?
That's all.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, now let's see, right? So as I said, the same as you have to learn the conjugation. So you learn for ish, do, er, zs, and for ia, and for vi as dz, it's the same thing as the actual verb. And ish hatte. So the verb haben in past is ish, hatten. So haben becomes hatten, and ish hatte, du hattest, er, zs hatte, ia hattet, and for vi as dz, it's hatten. But if you think about it, you should get really worried because every verb that you learn, you will have to learn the conjugation in present tense. You will have to learn the conjugation in past tense. Now this just increases your uh, effort, but just multiplies your effort by two. But there is a way out. It need not be that difficult. So let's continue how we can make it easier for you. Let's do one. Let's do one more. This is how difficult it can get. So I offer you a solution. So the verb to say to offer is unbeaten. Unbeaten. But it's a trennbare verb. So when you write, you take the an and you push it to the last position, and you only conjugate the beaten. That is ich biete, du bietest, er sie es bietet, wir bieten, ihr bietet, sie bieten. If you check for ich, you have to learn for ich tu, er sie es, and for ihr, and for wir and sie, it's the same. Beaten. Any questions about you know who can tell me, like, why is it dia and not why not dish? There are many ways to answer this question.
It's
Why
dative.
it's dative? Why is it dative?
Because the person referred by dear is not transferred himself or herself. That
Yes.
person is the
Indirect
recipient.
object.
Indirect
So
I
object,
think
yes.
it's an indirect object.
Indirect object,
that
yes,
will be
yes.
for.
But if I have to find the missing, and if I say, I offer blah blah a solution, your question will be, whom are you offering a solution, right? If the missing information can be found with the help of a whom, it's dative. Again, not always, okay? It's not a bulletproof solution, but you can think of. But again, it's indirect. Why? What do these guys mean by indirect? So if I say offer, every verb has a direct action. I offer. So what are you offering? That's the solution. you know and you is an indirect object. Okay, so again, but in real life, if you say ich biete dich eine Lösung an, people are going to take this. If your boss says we have a problem and you say ich biete dich eine Lösung an, your boss is not going to say no, 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 go and come back with the correct grammar. I will not accept your solution. No, he will happily take your solution because your solution is worth something. But what I'm trying to say is that if you can, say the correct grammar, use the correct grammar. Now, if you want to say the same thing in past tense, you will have to learn this conjugation. So who can read this for me? Anyone? I want.
Ich bot
Yeah.
dir eine Lösung an. Du botest dir eine Lösung an. Sie bot dir eine Lösung an. Wir boten dir eine Lösung an. Ihr botet dir eine Lösung an. Sie boten dir eine Lösung an.
Now, so if you see, right, actually, it's also very difficult to. I mean, and at least for me personal, my tongue struggles whenever I have to say something in past tense. Like this: if ich bot, du botest, er sie es bot, and how will you come? How do you know, like, the past tense? This is how you conjugate. So beta becomes a boat. Okay, if you know boat, you can think of boat test boat, right? But it changes completely, right? Even your head is thinking, like, how is it? But there is a solution, right? So it's a simple solution. Can you please read this for me?
Ich habe dir eine Lösung angeboten. angeboten. Du hast dir eine Lösung angeboten. Sie hat dir eine Lösung angeboten. Wir haben dir eine Lösung angeboten. Ihr habt dir eine Lösung angeboten. Sie haben dir eine Lösung angeboten.
Thank you very much. Now, what just happened is that so we replaced all this thing, board, boat, test, boat, blah blah, and we replaced that simply with the conjugation of haben in present tense. Okay, present tense, not past tense. So we are using haben and we are conjugating haben in present tense for the corresponding subjects, that is pronouns. Okay, but what else happened here at the end? You had an. Now you have angeboten, and you have the same thing everywhere. Now what I'm okay, some people already know this, so this may be boring for you, but if you don't know this, what just happened is that you don't really have to now know all this. If you just know that unbeaten, you know the four conjugations: ich biete blah blah an, du bietest blah blah an, er sie es bietet blah blah an, ihr bietet blah blah an, wir sie bieten blah blah an. You just learn one more thing, angeboten. So when you learn the verb unbeaten, learn also this angeboten. Okay, let's see what this is. Let's look at the grammar, right? So at the first, I mean, nothing changes. So normally you have subject, verb, and then you can have indirect object and the direct object, right? So subject, verb, indirect object, direct object. Direct object is accusative, indirect object is dative. And normally, not always, but almost always, dative object is before accusative object. So far remains the same. But now you don't have the actual verb. We call it this helping verb, hilfsverb. And at the end you take the actual verb, that conveys the meaning of the sentence. You write that at the last position and you use its participe zwei format. So you use the verb unbeaten but in participe zwei format. What is participe zwei? Don't need to bother, just know that every verb has a participe zwei, and you have to learn that from here onwards. You will have to learn the four conjugations and you have to learn the participe zwei. And this makes your life much easier, right? Because now you can just use the verb haben whenever you want to say something about past tense, right? And you just know one more variety of, one more variation of the actual verb. There is also a trick how you can, like similarly, like there are rules how you can conjugate a verb. You also have rules how you can find the participe zwei of an actual verb. Participe zwei is also referred to as perfect. No one is going to ask you this question unless you want to, you know, become a teacher. Yeah. Let's continue. So is that it? If you know this table, ich habe, du hast, er, sie, es hat, wir haben, ihr habt, sie haben, and participe zwei or perfect of a verb, are you now ready to write sentences in past tense? Almost. There is one more thing you have to know. You should remember the conjugation of bin as well. But this is, you already know, right? You already know ich bin, du bist, er, sie, es ist, wir sind, ihr seid, sie sind. Then when to use haben and when to use sein? That is a good question that you should ask me. So, but why you have to learn bin and haben? So there are two Hilfsverben, haben and sein. If you don't know which one to use haben by default. Okay, if you don't know which one to use, so if you don't know which one to use haben by default. But in your head, if you the verb that you are saying, if it is describing some kind of a movement or a change in state, change in or change of state of the subject, so whenever there is a movement, the sentence is describing the verb that you're using. For example, here we used angeboten, unbeaten. I mean, there is no motion, right? I mean, what you just offered a solution, right? So offer doesn't mean any motion or something like that. So whenever a movement or change is something there, you use sein. But even when you have to use sein, you use haben, it is still fine. But there will be exception. Then let's look at where you can use sein. Gehen, kommen, bleiben, aufstehen. Gehen is when you go. Kommen is, I think, come. Bleiben is to stay. Aufstehen, right? How do I say I went? If anyone knows already, participe zwei of gehen. Or just tell me, how do I say I went? I go is ich gehe. I went is anyone?
Ich habe gegangen.
No, but here it is there is a movement, right? So you will have to use bin.
Ich bin. Yeah.
Ich bin gegangen, right? If you have to say she went, she. Answer, please.
Sie ist gegangen.
Sie ist gegangen, right? Now, and then aufstehen is to wake up. Er ist aufgestanden, wir sind aufgestanden, ich bin aufgestanden. But then there is this begegnen. Okay, I say that the rule is that whenever there is movement or change in state, you use sein as the helping verb. But of course, it's not fun when there are no exceptions. So there is this verb begegnen. Who can tell me what begegnen means? Who can tell me what begegnen means? It also happens to be a dative verb, so the object will be in a dative case. But what does begegnen mean, guys? Something with a gun, but not exactly with a gun.
Shoot.
Not shoot. Not shoot. Okay, if you shoot? What exactly? If you are a police officer, what exactly are you doing? What is it called?
Chasing.
No, when you shoot, it's called encounter, right? But it does not mean that. Here it means, to encounter someone, not with a gun, but, for example, to face someone. For example, you are working in a project and suddenly,
Come
I
across.
don't know, there is a new intern and he deletes the production server. It always, sometime it happens. So now you are facing a problem. Now you are encountering a problem. So not gun encounter, but like facing a problem kind of encounter. Okay.
To come across.
To come across, yeah, we came across a problem, or today I for example, there is a fight match between two guys. They will be facing each other, right? So
Okay.
the begegnen einander, right? So this is here, you will have, again, there is no moment or something like that, but still you'll have to use helping verb sein if you are using begegnen in the past tense. Now, so this is the almost complete solution. What do I mean by almost? I mean, because there are a few more ways to, like when I say, so let's look at this. Okay, don't try to read the slide. Just stay with me. Just follow where the pointer goes. So if you want to say a normal sentence, a normal sentence normally has subject, verb, and it may or may not have an object. Subject, verb may or may not have an object. So normally you have subject, you have a verb, and you have an object. So if you have two objects, then you will have dative object and accusative object. Now, in past tense, what you have to do is that the verb which is normally here, which you conjugate, you have to push it to the last position, and you have to write that in participe zwei or perfect format. And here at the second position, you have the helping verb haben or sein, and you conjugate it. Okay. Now, subject need not be before. It is either before or after. If I use, so you should think of it like this. In a sentence, in a statement, the conjugated verb is at the second position, and the subject is either before or after. If something comes and takes like, whenever we say that, we talk about time, we say put the time factor in the beginning. For example, we went at 5 p.m., so you can say wir sind 5 Uhr abends gegangen, but it is better to say 5 Uhr abends sind wir gegangen. You put the time factor at the beginning, then the subject will go after the conjugated verb. What about a question mark? Like a yes or no kind of question. It's even more easier. All you have to do is, like, uh, if you talk about present tense, you have subject, verb, object. If you want to ask a yes or no kind of question, you will have to just interchange the positions of the subject and the verb. Here it's the same. So uh, all you have to do is change the position of subject and helping verb. So you have helping verb, then you have the subject, and then everything remains the same. Of course, you have to put a question mark over here. But again, in real life, you can also say this thing. If you're, even when people chat on WhatsApp, Instagram, wherever, they don't actually, in English, right, they don't say, right, for example, if I'm going to gym, I normally just ask a friend of mine, like, you are coming, and I end that with a question mark. You can also say that in German, but in exam they will cut your marks if you don't do that, if you do that. Then what about a W kind of question? It's even more easier. You just take all of this, helping verb, subject, blah blah blah, you push it to the right, and you add the W word. Check, helping verb, subject, subject, dative, dative, accusative, accusative, participe soi, participe soi. That's why German language is so easy to learn. Sorry, so simple to learn. Now, these syntaxes, what do I mean by almost complete solution? These syntaxes work. There is, okay, it should be work only for and not only for. So these syntaxes work only for sentences where no modal verb is used. Okay. But what happens if you use a modal verb? It's even much easier. It's even easier. Uh, so because then you don't even have to remember the conjugations of sein and haben. Then you only have to remember the conjugations of modal verb. Now, so okay, it may be easy or difficult depending on how quickly you can mug up things. So if someone can give me modal verb in present tense, I not this is preteritum. Who can give me wollen conjugation in present tense? So ich will, do, blah blah. Who can give me? Uh, yeah, anyone?
Ich will,
Yeah,
du willst, es, sie will, wir wollen, ihr wollt, sie wollen.
give me the same for müssen.
Ich muss, du musst, es, sie muss, wir müssen, ihr müsst, sie müssen.
Können.
Ich kann, du kannst, es, sie kann, wir können, ihr könnt, sie können.
Continue. If you don't mind, you can continue.
Ich soll, du sollst, es, sie soll, wir sollen, ihr sollt, sie sollen. Ich darf, du darfst, es, sie darf, wir dürfen, ihr
Just use the simple logic. Just add t and remove en.
darft,
No, dürft. Dürfen, remove
dürft,
t. Dürft.
ja, dürft, sie dürfen. Ich möchte, du möchtest, es, sie möchte, wir möchten, ihr möchtet, sie möchten.
Thank you very much. Now, what from today? Thank you very much, Abu. That's was really impressive, Apurva. So from today onwards, you also have to remember the modal verb in preteritum. Okay, why do you have to do this? Just check. If I want to say something in preteritum using modal verb, and just check. I will say, so I will have the subject, and I will have the actual verb, the actual verb that is conveying the meaning. I don't even have to use now it's in its participle y format. I just have to use it in this infinitive format. Let me go back right here. When you are not using modal verb, you have to use that verb in participle y format. But the moment you use a modal verb, you don't have to do that. You just use it in its infinitive format. But of course, then you have to reuse the modal verb in preteritum. Okay, preteritum, not participes y. And so ich wollte dir eine Lösung anbieten. So what do you have to actually learn over here? You just have to know how do you say ich will in preteritum. Ich wollte, and what will happen for, if you want to say this in the form of a yes or no question kind of question, you just replace the positions of modal verb, conjugated verb, and the subject. And for a W word, you just take the syntax for yes or no kind of question, push it, and then add W word at the first position. It's really easy. It's really simple. Not easy, but simple. And of course, so what you have to remember is that you have to remember the uh, two things. When you use modal verb in past tense, you will have to use the modal verb in preteritum, and the actual verb will be in infinitive format. Ich wollte dir eine Lösung anbieten. Musste ich dir eine Lösung anbieten? Wann sollte ich dir eine Lösung anbieten? Okay. But you have to remember this modal verb in preteritum. Again, you can just mug this up, but there are tricks. So of course, it goes without saying that if you know for ich, du, sie, and ihr, then it's fine, right? So because via sie it's the same, and in preteritum, so wollen in preteritum is wollten. So if you know wollten, you know for via and sie. Now, if you check one more time, it's the same for ich and rzs in preteritum only, okay, in preteritum, and only for modal verb. And ich wollte, rzs wollte, ich musste, konnte, rzs konnte, check, it's the same. That means if you know for ich, you know for rzs. Of course, you will have to learn for do, but it's even more simpler, right? Just add st, st. And what about ia? Just add t. So in actually what you are doing is that if you know for ich, you know for rzs. Okay, if you know for ish, you know for rzs. And if you know for ish and RZS, just add st and you get for do. And for ia, just add t. Okay. And it's even more easier. You don't even have to know Volta. So you just have to remember Volton, Mooston, Thornton, Zolton, Doofton, Mockton. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that just remember for via ZZ, that is Volton, Mooston, Thornton, Zolton, Doofton, Mockton. And if you know for this, remove the N and you get for ish. Add ST and you get for do. Right? And RZS, it's the same as ish. And add T, you get for ia. It's very easy to remember. Again, you have to pass the 4 a.m. test. I hope you know what 4 a.m. test is, for this table tomorrow morning. Let's see. Now the question is, of course, you cannot always use modal verb, right? If you use modal verb, life is simple. No need to remember verbs in participes y form. But sometimes you cannot use modal verb, right? So what happens? So how do you remember participes y of verbs? Again, guys, I can give you these rules, but to be honest, even I don't remember these rules because now it has. Last time I mean, it's almost 6 years since I attended any German class. So, uh, I remember these rules when I was learning, but not anymore. But just so you know, so if you want to find the participes y of a regular verb, so what you will have to do is you take the Verbstamm. That means, if the verb is machen, so you remove the en, so you have mark. So that is the Verbstamm, stem of the verb, and you add ge before and t at the end. So ge, marked. Suchen, remove en, so you have zug. So ge, suchte, gesucht. What about irregular verbs? you know what you have to do is that, again, first you have to figure out that it's an irregular verb. Only then you can use this rule. And I told you, don't try waste your time in like finding out what irregular verbs is. Of course there are rules, but life is much easier if you can just learn the four conjugations and learn the participes y as well. It's not that difficult. For mixed verbs, it's the same as for regular verbs, but you will have to modify the Verbstamm. So the verb is nennen. uh, who can tell me and give me an example for the verb nennen? N-A-N-N-A-N.
Uh, Nennen means to name.
To name or
And
to
it's
list, for example. For example, if you are can you name three, or can you name three policies that were successful in your government, or can you list, so, and so it's genannt, so if you take the Verbstamm that is nen and you modify the Verbstamm, so you replace a with a, and then you have na and then genannt. What about verbs with separable prefix? So what do you do is you make some space between the prefix and the verb, not the verb, but you just make some space. For example, aufmachen. What does aufmachen means, guys?
To close, to
Just
open,
to open. And what is close?
zumachen.
Zumachen, right? So auf, you just make some space. You add g over there, and that machen, just check whether it is irregular, mixed, or irregular, and how you would find its participes y. So gemacht, aufgemacht. So what this means?
And what is it for zumachen?
Zugemacht.
Okay.
Yeah, simple. Zugemacht. So, and the verb is aufessen. Who can tell me what is aufessen? Anyone who has a kid?
to eat out.
To eat?
To eat out.
Example.
Outside with some friend. It's
No,
called
no,
to
it's no,
eat
no,
out.
it's not correct.
Dine out.
No, no,
No?
no.
Okay.
Aufessen. Anyone with a kid? You should know this. What do kids? For example, kids. You give them food and they don't really finish their food, right? And normally mothers say what?
Finish it.
Finish it, right? That is auf again. So finish it is in that context means finish your food. That is aufessen. Ich habe ich esse das auf. So if you give me something for example, if you give me, I don't know, cheesecake, I will eat it. You will not, the clean plate will look really clean as if nothing was there. Ich esse das auf. So, and ich habe, it is aufgegessen. Now here check. So essen is gegessen. So aufessen, you make some space between auf and essen. and you add G over there, and Essen participle zwei is yeah, it's complicated. So aufgeben, what is aufgeben, guys? Anyone?
Given means giving up.
Giving up, right?
To
Ich
give
gebe auf, right?
Give away.
No, giveaway is
give
something else. Giveaway, what do you want to say? Example? It's a wrong answer, but we'll learn something. What do you want to give away? Any sentence if you can frame?
The clothes or the
That
food.
will be, it will be
something to the like
abgeben, or if you want, if you're thinking about money, ausgeben, ich gebe aus. Aufgeben is to give up. Okay. Then you have verbs with inseparable, this were like, verbs where you can separate the prefix, right? Like trennbare Verben. Then you have verbs with inseparable prefix, right? For example, bestellen. So, stellen is a verb, then there is this verb bestellen. What does a bestellen mean, guys?
Order.
Order, I think.
Order, right? So order food or something like that. So here you cannot actually separate the, here you don't add ge, so what you have to do is that you keep the prefix as it is and you modify this verb. You'll have to participle zwei format, studieren, and then you have this, like, okay, this is studieren is a bad example because it has no prefix, but what am I trying to say? So here is the note. Don't try to remember rules, just learn the participle zwei by heart. you know if you, in real life, if you say ich habe das aufgegessen instead of saying aufgegessen, people will know what you're trying to say. It's instead of remembering all these rules, and I mean, because if you want to use these rules, you have to know like whether the verb is regular, mixed, irregular, and all those things. Again, you can do it. I don't think. I mean, I did this, but I don't think I will do it if I had to learn German from the beginning again. Now, so here are some examples. Any questions about the syntax, guys? There is not much. You just have to remember the syntax. If you have any questions, please ask. Otherwise, I think in the third or fourth session we had, we went through the meanings of all these verbs. So by now you should know, the conjugation for hören, ich höre, du hörst, sie es hört, ihr hört, sie wir hören, and you also have to now learn the participle zwei of it. So anybody can just read. So instead of saying ich höre, say the same thing in.
I wanted to ask one question.
Yes.
If we learn all the participles zwei,
Yeah.
then we don't need to learn the Präteritum
No need to. No need.
for
No need.
any exam. For any
No,
exam.
no. Because so we just had this, right? So when you use modal verb, you will have to know the Präteritum, right? Right. There will be,
Yeah, only for the modal verb we have to learn, but
but there are a few exceptions. Let's look at the exceptions, right? So for example, when you want to say something like, these examples, right? We had this one. I am, I was. If you really want to say this with the help of participle zwei, right? If you want to say I was a programmer, if you want to say this with the help of a participle zwei, so you will have to say ich, then you will have to say bin, then you will have to say programmierer, sorry, rear mirror, programmierer, and then you will have to know the participle zwei of sein. Anyone knows participle zwei of sein? It's gewesen. Now this actually makes your life even more difficult because what I'm saying. So it's much better like when you have like something very so exceptions are, you have to use whenever you want to say I was, I had, then it's much easier to just remember the preteritum of these verbs. Is it clear what I'm saying, or did I confuse you even more? Is it?
Actually, you gave the example ich boat,
Yeah,
ich
but
meter,
here
and
you don't have to, like here, so here you can, it's best to go for participle zwei.
but for matlab,
Exam.
yes, in
Exam, again, I'm not really sure what they are asking right now, but let me think. Let me, so almost every verb you have to learn the participle zwei. That is, I can tell you. Now, which verbs you have to learn Präteritum as well? So learn the ones for haben, sein, wissen, heißen, finden, denken, Modalverben, and because for example, if you are taking part in a presentation and your boss asks you, hey, Purva, what do you think about the presentation? And you'd say, I found it good, you know. Then you can say, ich habe das gut gefunden, or you can just say, ich fand es gut. Quite often, so you have to use logic even in exam. It's not, they won't ask you anything that is not about real life, like most of the time. So these are exceptions I can think of. You should learn the Präteritum of these verbs as well. So haben, sein, wissen, denken, modal verben. There can be more, you know. Gehen also, for example, in my real life, I also use Präteritum of gehen. For example, ich ging, du ging, something, du gingst, I believe. So does that answer your question, or did I confuse you more?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So most welcome. So learn participes. Why Präteritum? Use logic, or just look at every exam will have the syllabus or blueprint what they are going to ask, and you will find the answers. So let us go back. So I think we have 9 minutes left. I want someone who can read quickly, and you have to say ish, and you have to use the correct helping verb, and of course you will have to use this one. You have to say I heard instead of saying I hear. You have to say this in past tense. And the I mean, of course, I've listed the participes y of each verb, right? But you have to use your the logic that we discussed. Whether you have to use haben or sein, you have to decide. Who wants to go? You have to read quickly, by the way.
Can I go?
Yeah, no problem.
Ich höre.
Don't read in present tense. Just read the past one, the past tense, and use the correct helping verb.
Okay. Ich habe gehört. Ich habe gesprochen. Ich habe gelesen. Ich habe geschrieben. Ich habe gekocht. Ich bin geschwommen.
Now, wait. So here you can use bin and haben, both are right now, but the logic is important, right? Let's say if you are saying, I swam from point A to point B, then this is movement. Like, because you swam from point A to point B, then you will have to use sein, ich bin geschwommen. But if you are saying you did this, like this is kind of like it was Sunday, and a friend of you asked you to go swimming with him or her, then again, because you are just swimming, so now it's like, of course you are swimming, like going from one end to another, but you are still just swimming, so then you can also say ich hab geschwommen. Is it clear what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, okay.
Continue.
Ich bin gejoggt. Ich
Again, here
bin
also you can
gelaufen.
say, if you say, now, what is the context? So in your head, are you saying ich bin gejoggt von Punkt A bis Punkt 2? Then you will have to say
Yes.
bin. But if it's just jogging, ich hab gejoggt. Continue.
I don't know this word better.
What do if you, I believe you're from South Asia, if I'm not wrong. So what do your parents do in the morning just after they take shower?
Worship.
Yeah, or pray. Yeah.
Okay. Ich habe gebetet. Ich bin gependelt. Am I right here?
Both are been, or depends, like in your head, if you're saying that, for example, if you're talking about, when you are back in, let's say, if you're in your previous job position, you will had to, like, I had to, like, take the train, I had to commute. Then you're saying ich hab gependelt, but if you're talking about a specific scenario where you went from one place to another, a one time scenario, like point to A to point B, then you will have to say sein. Okay, is it clear what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay.
Continue.
Ich habe gegeben. Ich habe verkauft. Ich habe geliebt. Ich habe entspannt. Ich habe gestresst. Ich habe gedacht.
So stop. So here I gave you the participes y of gedacht. Denken is gedacht. But quite often you say, right, I thought you were coming. How often do you say I think, I thought, I believe, I believed? So it's good idea. It's also there on the next slide. It's a good idea to For example, denken is, you should learn the preteritum as well. Ich dachte, du dachtest, sie es dachte, ihr dachtet, and of course for easy via dachten. Continue. The same applies for glauben as well. So how often do you say, I believed? Continue.
Uh, Ich habe geglaubt.
Geglaubt, not gelaubt. Geglaubt.
Geglaubt, okay. Ich habe gelernt. Ich habe unterrichtet. Ich habe gearbeitet. Ich habe verdient.
Not okay. Here there is not verdient. Just say verdient. Verdient. Yeah.
Verdient.
What does it mean?
Ich habe
What does it
geübt.
mean?
Earn.
Yeah, earn, right? Yeah, continue.
Ich habe geübt. Ich habe gebacken. Ich bin genommen.
No, no. Ich hab genommen, right? You just took something,
Yes, yes.
right?
Ich
Stop. How
habe
do I
genommen.
say? How do I say? Okay, continue. I think we have less time. Continue. Sorry, continue.
What is the meaning of überlegt?
If I am a recruiter and I reach out to you with a new job, LinkedIn, I contact you, will you immediately say yes? What will you tell me? If I reach out to your new job offer and I ask you to leave your
To
company,
think about.
yeah, think about it, right? To reflect on it, right? The issue belegen.
Okay. Ich habe überlegt. Ich habe gehasst. Ich habe gegessen. Ich habe getrunken. Ich bin gegangen.
Sehr gut. Ich bin gegangen. Because you're going somewhere. Bin, not haben. Continue.
Ich bin gekommen.
Yeah, correct. Right. You're coming.
Okay. Ich habe geschlafen.
Yeah, correct. Not
Ich,
designed because you're just describing a state, right? You are sleeping. It's there is no movement.
yes.
You're just so ich hab geschlafen. Yeah. How do you say fall asleep? Anyone? If you know Apurva,
Einschlafen.
einschlafen. So what do you think participle Y of it will be if you had to take a guess? So
Ich bin
Eingeschlafen.
eingeschlafen.
eingeschlafen, right? So the logic is that it's a trennbare verb. So you make some space between ein and schlafen, and you push ge in between einge, and then schlafen. Participle Y is same schlafen, eingeschlafen. Continue.
Ich habe gelogen. Lügen means lie.
Yes.
Okay. And what is the meaning of CTO?
Uh, you know, uh, Quite often when politicians fight, if you want to just like make them fumble, if I'm saying anyone else can give me, I can't think of a story to tell you. Wait, citieren
Uh,
is sorry,
It means to cite or to
to
refer,
side or to quote, to side or to quote. That's what I.
provide an example or an instance.
Yeah, yeah. If your politician is giving, like, tell them, like, how do you know this? Politicians say, I am quoting this person. Continue.
Ich habe zitiert. Ich habe gewartet. Ich habe gespielt. Ich habe maximiert. Ich habe gebraucht. What is the meaning of beopackt?
Let's say if I have a kid, and I'm sitting in the garden, and for example, I have to go and take a leak, and I see that you are sitting there, you are also there with, let's say, if you have a kid, you're sitting also there with a kid, right? What will I come and tell you? And if I, because I'm going, I want, the call will end, we'll continue talking in the next session. Beobachten means to observe. Okay. Yeah. The call will end, guys. Thank you
Yes.
very much for joining. We'll see each other on Wednesday. Yeah. Thank you very much for joining. Have a nice evening.